I was about 4 or 5 years old and my parents had just separated. My mom was living in a 2-bedroom apartment. I had my own room, but I preferred to sleep in her bed whenever I was staying with her. Our 2 bedrooms were at the end of a hallway, directly across from each other. Our apartment was on the first floor, and I remember that it was in the middle of the summer and my mom had a window open in her room, which was directly behind the bed. Anyways, I woke up in the middle of the night and remember sitting up and seeing that our cat was sitting in the door frame of my mom's room. The door was open and you could partially see into my bedroom. I thought this was strange because our cat was typically always in bed with us. As I was watching him, he walked into my bedroom and meowed. I turned to face my mom and wake her up. In the 3 to 4 seconds it took her to wake up and ask me what was wrong, we both looked back up in the door frame and there was a man standing by my open door, making his way out of my bedroom. I still don't know how she managed to do it so quickly, but my mother proceeded to pick me up and literally throw me out of the screen window. She quickly followed and we were able to start screaming for help. The police came but didn't see any signs of forced entry, only that our front door was unlocked, which led them to believe the man must have exited that way. The strange thing, though, was that my mom swore up and down that she had locked the door that night with the deadbolt and chain lock. About a week later, she was cleaning the kitchen and opened up our water heater closet and found a notebook with names and drawings, as well as a pair of gloves and some gum wrappers. The police were called again, but all they could do was speculate that the man had been in our house and hid until we were asleep. My aunt once had a terrifying experience. She was home alone when she heard someone open the door and walking in the hallway. Since my uncle was not supposed to get home for a few hours, she went downstairs to see if someone was there. She did not see anyone, but outside the door she saw footsteps in the snow, leading to the door but not away from it. This got her nervous, and on a second glance, she saw an unfamiliar pair of shoes in the hallway. She ran up and called the police. And when they came and searched through the house, they found a homeless man hiding in a storage room, holding my uncle's shotgun, but luckily he had not found the ammunition since it was hid in another place. He was arrested, but according to my aunt, it is the scariest thing she has ever experienced. My mother-in-law was a very funny and cool woman. She and my wife were really close, and sadly, she passed away when our son was about 4 months old. A few years later, we were living in an old 1930s era craftsman house in Pasadena, California, and our son was about 3 at this time. I was giving him a bath one night, and he starts looking over my shoulder, not at random stuff, but at something. A moment passes, and he asks me why Grandma calls Mommy a funny name. Long pause. I asked him what he meant, thinking he was talking about my mom. He then says, "Why does Grandma call Mommy Moo?" I was really set back by this. My wife and I never used the nickname. It was just what her mom called her since she was a baby. I asked him where he heard that. He replied, "The farmer told me." I asked him who the farmer was, and he replied, "His friend." I tell my wife this story later, and she's of course reduced to tears over the whole nickname thing. We both know there is no way for him to know this, and we just kind of marvel at it. Flash forward to the next weekend, and my son was playing in his room. My wife was at work, and I was at home with our son. I hear him start talking like he's having a conversation. He's saying things like, yes, no, I don't know that, then some laughing. I go into his room and ask him what he's doing, and he says he's playing. I asked with who. He again said the farmer. At that point, I was already thinking about the Exorcist movie and Captain Howdy. The whole situation was a little unsettling. When I asked him where the farmer was, he said he left when I came in. At that point, I recall my stomach dropping, and my throat felt tight, like when you're trying to hold back tears. After my wife got home, I told her about the conversation I had with our son, and she was just as weirded out as I was. We had no idea what to do, but ultimately decided if it happened again, we would do something. A few days later, in the middle of the night, we both overheard our son saying the following: "Grandma says you and I can't be friends anymore." My wife and I both went to go check on him. both of us a little freaked out after hearing this. When we walked into his room, he was just sitting up in bed, staring up intently. I asked if he was okay, and he said yes, but Grandma says I can't play with the farmer anymore. He never once mentioned the farmer again. Not ever. He's 13 now and doesn't remember any of it. We do, though. I grew up in a house on Long Island, in the town of Brentwood. It was a quiet town for its location. This story happened when we had just moved into the house and started to notice it was not an ordinary house. My dad worked as a taxi driver at the time, which meant he would usually end up coming home early in the morning, and I would greet him upon his arrival. On one Saturday when I was watching cartoons, my dad came in, and I ran over to say hello. My mom hears us from the bedroom and says, "Hello, honey. Don't go in the pool. It's not ready yet." Me and my dad think, well, that's weird. It's 6 a.m. We weren't going to go into the pool. But we brushed it off, and he goes on to tell me his usual stories of the crazies he picked up throughout the night. We then realized it was Saturday and my mom was at work, so it was only me and him in the house, but the voice sounded just like my mother. We both found the encounters so terrifying that we checked all the rooms, but it was only the two of us. We both knew at that point the voice was something paranormal, but didn't understand why they mentioned the pool. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and my new neighbors came over to welcome us to town. It was the mother, 2 sons, one my age and one a little older, maybe 15, and 2 little girls, one blonde-haired girl and a shy brunette that didn't talk. We got to playing some soccer. However, the little brunette girl was nowhere to be found. Being the curious little kid I was, I ran around the property and I found her playing in the woods, a dangerous area for little kids to be exploring. She asked me to come play tag, and I accepted, but wanted to get everyone in on the game. The reactions of our parents as I asked if we could all play her game was puzzling, along with the response from the mom, "We only have one daughter." Turns out a small brown-haired girl drowned in the pool 10 years ago after going into the pool alone, and the mother soon passed from a heart attack.